Welcome to the Larry Rinker Golf Podcast. Hope you're having a great day wherever you're at. This is your place for tour proven conversations, world class insight, and real results. My guest today is Dr. David Wright of Wright Balance. I get asked all the time, what is Wright Balance? What do you mean when you say upper core, mid core, low core? What does all that mean? Well, I've been using Right Balance now for over 9 years, and it has really helped my teaching. I've helped a lot of people because now I can identify whether they're upper, mid, or low core. And that's all thanks to Doc Wright. How you doing tonight, Doc?
I'm doing great, Larry. Thank you.
Well, Doc, to me, you've created a semblance of order in the golf world with your three swing models. There are different setup and swing characteristics for each model. How did you come up with this?
Well, this has been a 30 plus year process. I think the model was created out of research in Dr. Frank Job's biomechanics lab at Centinela Hospital. Brain trust there was significant. I'll talk about that in a moment. But in that environment over 5, 6 years, we had multiple subjects, amateurs and pros come in. We had 1,000 sensors in each, force sensors in each shoe. In those days, they were called force sensors. These days, they're called pressure. And we had 40 light sensors on the body. Dr. Job had done the first biomechanics research in the 80s, first golf, some of the first golf in this country. So the light sensors were put on with anatomical landmarks, and we had 75 different setup positions. We had a bar in particular on the hips with light sensors. So we could look at the light sensors and also see rotation of the body. We had different setup positions. For example, in stance width, which is really the foundation of upper, middle, and lower core, we had shoulder width stance, which is the gold standard in golf. We placed individuals 2 inches narrower than shoulder inch width and wider than 2 inches wider than shoulder inch width. And we began to see through those sensors in the feet that it showed total pressure, total force on the ground, but it also showed the center of pressure. So where's the average center? And in some players, we saw they were on the balls of the feet or even forward. Some we saw they were well back, and some we saw in the middle. And it tended to go with stance width. As the lower core, as we know them, got wider, we saw the centering in the back. And as the upper core got narrower, which they are now, we saw the sensors go more forward. Out of that came a lot of discussion, a lot of analysis. The better your measurement system, the better you're able to see and make conclusions. And that gave us tremendous measurement systems. After that study, I purchased two what are called walkways used in podiatrist orthopod's office to look at gait analysis. The same sensor density from the same company, but it was all in a static position. So I could put players on this mat and barefooted. So we did a lot of follow-up. And out of that came an understanding of stance widths and what's a balance for a particular person based upon body measurements. And we started with 3 core zones with nothing in between, and each had just one area. Then we found 3 subregions in each area, and now we have 5 subregions in each area. So we have a total of 15, but 5 subregions in each of the core zones.
Amazing. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to walk down the range at a tour event and realize there's more than one way to swing a golf club.
Right.
It just seems like the golf world is, they're just so enamored with the mid-core swing, which is your tour model, and that's what we see most of our tour winners are mid-core. And if you don't know anything, you might just say, well, I'm going to teach what the guys winning on tour do. But when did you realize that most golfers were not going to fit into a tour model?
Well, that probably was around 2012, 13, 14. In fact, I mentioned earlier, Wright Balance Technology, not wrightbalance.com, but wrightbalancetechnology.com. You go to that homepage and scroll down, that there's about 1,000-page summary of tour players and the swings. And that was, I think I put that together in 2000, about 10 years ago. And most of it is still accurate to this day in terms of seeing how much shaft lean the lower core player has versus the upper, seeing the differences in posture, seeing the hips clearance at impact. All of those are laid out. But and again, it was a process over time. We have always had three core zones: upper, middle, and lower. We had only three in the beginning, then we moved to 9, and now we have 15, as I mentioned a minute ago. So, it's simple now to determine what someone is. What is are you upper, are you mid, are you lower? And there's no mystery. And now we know what their strength is, what their sequence of motion is, how weak or strong their grip should be. And it's pretty straightforward and simple to teach now.
So you're listening to the Larry Rinker Golf Podcast. My guest this evening, Dr. David Wright. He is the founder of Wright Balance, where there are three swing models: low, mid, and upper core. And this just kind of shows you some skeletons here, Doc, where we're showing upper, mid, and low core. And the low core player, that's your Dustin Johnson, right?
That's correct.
Strongest grip. They pivot around their trail leg, so in the backswing, they're going to move the most laterally. They have the most lateral motion in their swing, and they have the least amount of rotation in the backswing. But at impact, they've got those hips really cleared. They're the most rotated, and therefore they have the latest release. When we look at a mid-core player, they're kind of the hybrid, Doc, between upper and low core. But their grip is going to be between the low and upper. That's what we hear, two knuckles is what I would say. They have that center pivot in between their feet. Moderate lateral and rotary. Their hip rotation, we know the average hip rotation on tour is 40 to 45 degrees. And they're going to have that mid-core release point where they're staying in posture through impact. And then the upper core player. Most neutral grip, pivot around that front leg, least lateral on the backswing, but the most rotary, biggest turn, and then their hips are the least rotated at impact with the earliest release. And Doc, to me, those models and just even that information right there is so huge for the golf industry. Doc Wright holds 2 doctorates. His areas of specialization are research learning and psychophysiology. He was a full-time member of the faculty of the University of Southern California School of Medicine for 4 years and a member of the clinical faculty for over 25 years. He has been a golf professional since 1982. And Doc, you set up the research design, wrote the protocols, and ran the balance study for the duration of the project. You've done all the subsequent research, and you continue to research and talk a little bit about this team you put together, starting with Dr. Frank Jobe.
Right. Dr. Jobe did the Tommy John surgery. That's what he's well known for, saved the careers of thousands of athletes. Now, I mean, you watch the College World Series, and you'll hear about the pitcher or any player having had the Tommy John surgery. He did the original one with Tommy John, should have been called the Frank Jobe surgery, but it's called the Tommy John surgery. Dr. Jobe, I met through Dr. Michael Melman, and he was excited about the study. He had all the equipment, high-speed cameras, and he was one of multiple people that are. Do you have other images there, Larry?
Yeah, we do have some other images here. We also have Dr. Robert Watkins, who you call the father of core.
Yeah,
There's Dr. Melman.
right. Dr. Melman was an internist. He and I met at Callaway Golf on a putting study and became dear friends. And he's the one that introduced me to Dr. Job. And he was at absolutely every time we did a data collection on a player, he was there. He was in the lab every day. Still to this day, a very dear friend. And we had
And
Dr.
he's
James
been the
Smith.
team physician for all the Los Angeles teams. He's
Well,
the
yeah,
one that
those are
came
the
up with
world
the
champion.
carrying angle.
Yeah, he brought the carrying angle to the research study. On his desk, there are the world championship from the Rams, the Lakers, the Kings, and
Dodgers.
thank you. He was with the Dodgers when in fact, he brought many of the Dodgers, retired Dodgers, in as subjects. That was fun. So, Dr. Watkins is, as you mentioned, father of core. He was a USC physician. I was coaching at USC, and we had a player, Tanya Dergal. I think Tanya this day may still be at LA Country Club teaching, herniated a disc her freshman year in October. And he would tell you that 95% of back surgeries are unnecessary. So Dr. Watkins, being the USC athletic team's orthopod, and I had owned pain centers prior to this, and seeing her and what she was going through, I thought, boy, this is a career ender. Dr. Watkins put her on a back exercise program through the USC trainer, and she was back playing tournament golf in February. I thought, oh my gosh,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
a remarkable transition, and she continued to play through her senior year. Tanya's great player, was recruited out of Durango, Mexico, as I recall. But anyway, and Dr. Melman was doing physicals for Dr. Watkins' patients. And it was just a coincidence, introduced me to Dr. Watkins, and one of his exercises was actually tested in the biomechanics lab, Dr. Job's lab, and he had worked with Dr. Job before. So we had quite an interesting brain trust. And you mentioned earlier, as we were chatting, Dr. Jim Smith. We wouldn't be where we are today without Dr. Smith. He's a postdoc in biophysics and just tremendous individual. I've known him since I was 12 years old. Dr. Smith is my brother-in-law. And with him, he helped us develop all the formulas. He set up all the equipment in the biomechanics lab to help us get everything standardized, calibrated. So to this day, I was with him this past weekend. He now lives close to you in Florida, but he was out visiting. So still very active in doing research. He's published over 100 scientific papers and well known in the physics community.
Well, Doc, it's just really interesting what you have learned from this. Dr. Frank Job, this is ironic that in 1984 on the PGA Tour, we had a fitness van for the first time rolling on the PGA Tour, and our orthopedic was Dr. Job. So it's interesting that 20 years later, now you get with Dr. Job and Dr. Watkins and Dr. Melman and do this research project. And then all of a sudden, out of this, you come up with, hey, we can kind of define three different swing models, upper, mid, and low core. And I mean, that's just amazing. That's why I say you've created a semblance of order in the golf swing because now people can look at themselves and say, okay, my hips aren't cleared at impact, or they're really cleared, or, there's different things we can look at. And let's look at a few swings here. I'll start with Paul Azinger. Azinger low core, very strong grip. This is kind of late in his career here, but you see the club face shut at the top, and then notice the hips clear and the weight in the heel of the left foot. So, Doc, it's interesting that low core players use verticals the least. How do you
They do.
jump out of your heels?
Right. Yeah, your upper core players use verticals the most. Low core more rotational and linear, as you said earlier, and very, very little. Well, vertical will show up, but not really. And here we have the upper core player.
Yeah, and this is me getting old, but here it is. And you're going to see, notice my head at impact. I mean, I have stood up. I did a video recently. It's going to come out, but I said early extension is not a sin.
It is
So
not, no.
you can see from here to there. Notice I am standing up. My hips are not cleared. My head has gone up several inches. And, so it's just interesting how so many people are saying, oh, early extension, that's going to make you hit the ball poorly or offline or all these things when it's actually a ground reaction force, isn't it?
It is. It's your vertical ground reaction force that's bringing you out of posture. And there's so many teachers I hear today, stay in your posture. You've got to stay in your posture. As you said, you're coming out of posture, you're extending early, you're humping the ball, whatever. And in fact, it's the majority of players, majority of men.
And then here we have Justin Thomas. And one of the things I've noticed, Doc, between a mid and low core player is that they do jump, they use verticals. And we can see Justin Thomas is kind of staying in posture. His hips look more rotated than they really are because of the way he kicks his right knee out. But he's in the ball of his foot. We have a pressure mat on the right side showing he's almost left the ground with his left foot.
Right.
But we'll see, guys. And that's what we're going to see a lot on tour, isn't it? We're going to see these mid-core players on tours really using a lot of verticals. But
Yeah.
yet, when we get to that low-core player like a Jordan Spieth, we are going to see him now with his weight in his left heel and really rotated. It looks like he's trying to jump there, but he's only just kind of jumping. But how much vertical ground reaction force can you create from your heels? Not
You're not.
much.
Yeah, you're not.
Then Chris Kirk is one I get asked all the time. Is he upper core? Because you'll see when he's at impact, you can't even see his left cheek of his hips. He's
No question.
not that rotated. And then we got the shark here, Greg Norman on the seventh hole at Augusta, and you're going to see the shark's right foot's flat on the ground at impact.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I remember I was talking with somebody who said they had talked to Butch Harmon, and they were talking about how they need to get their hips more rotated. He said, well, Greg Norman was number one in the world. His hips are hardly rotated at impact.
I need to get him, he was really, by the time we were getting into posting the various, I didn't look at him. That's really the first time, Larry, I've seen Greg Norman through impact.
But it's interesting how I think we have these concepts, and I think there's just so much where there's a lot out there, and we have all this technology now that we can measure everything, and yet there's still these differences. And I asked you this question, but I want you to tell the audience what percentage are low core, mid core, and upper core players based on people like me that have measured over 1,500 people and your other Wright Balance fitters.
Well, you have to look at geographic region. You have to look at male and female. As a rule, men are stronger in the upper body than lower. Let me say one thing before I jump into that everything you're talking about is about balance. So we're not saying it's, even though I'm talking about strength, it goes to ground level and where the point of balance is. You're going to find all upper core players on the balls of the feet or even forward of that a bit. So that, I think that's really an important concept. So of
Yes.
men in this country, I'm going to say 65 to 70% upper core.
Wow.
Okay. I happen to be low core. And as golf professionals, my belief is, and I did it, golf professionals teach what they do. They're
Right.
not necessarily looking at the individual. So I was teaching everyone to clear their hips. And so the late 80s, early 90s, even into the late 90s, I have some walking wounded out there still trying to clear their hips. With until I began to understand, no, that only works for in this country probably 10 to 15% of the population. So that's a very low percentage. You'll find certain athletes, pitchers, are tend to be low core. Your good hitters that are rotating at the plate in baseball tend to be low core. Your not so long ball hitters like Jeter, who played for New York, I'm guessing he would probably be upper core.
Right.
Very good contact, but not long ball hitter. Anyway, and your mid core makes up the balance. So we're looking at well, again,
30%.
it depends. Now, we just did a study that was done in Florida, Sarasota area, or Naples, I should say, where we had more mid-core than upper core players. And we had an age range of 19 to 79, 41 players, 5 women. So geographically, it really depends. And when I go to Asia, I'll see more women upper core than I would have guessed, but mostly the lower and mid. In Germany, Stuttgart, Germany, we have a Wright Balance professional, and he tells me that because of skiing and soccer, he sees a lot more. He say 20 to 25% of the men are low core. Now that's called epigenetics, where you practice and develop based not because your DNA or genetic predisposition, but because of the practice you're doing will change your strength, your focus. So, and that's just development. So
Well, Doc,
depends.
you talk about balance, and anyone, if you're driving your car, don't do this, but if you're somewhere where you can stand, if you put your weight into the balls of your feet and then try and keep it there and try and rotate through like you're hitting a golf shot, you're going to see you're restricted.
Well,
But if you
you're
bend
gonna feel the rise
right
too.
and you feel right, but if you bend your knees and squat a little bit and feel your weight in the middle of your feet, you're going to feel that there's a lot more freedom there.
Right.
So it's called right balance for a reason because so much is about the balance. And I think we're seeing athletes get hurt, Doc, that are set up in an upper core posture with their weight in the balls of their feet, and then they're trying to gyrate their hips through the ball.
Well, and let me say one more thing and then back to this conversation. We have advanced so far now that we have a fitness program and related to particular exercises because we're looking at a lot of different athletes from sprinters. I just did a Zoom call with a coach for biathletes in England today, earlier. So we're looking, so it's not just, we are looking at balance, but it's global. Anything we do, whether you're elderly and walking, I mean, when my father was in his 90s, I fit his cane handle size, changed his balance immediately. So something that you pick up that you think would help and assist in balance actually can create imbalance. Mobility. We're looking at, for example, knee pronation, which is the internal rotation of one knee. When you have that, you're set up for knee and hip injuries. And we're able now to eliminate all of that. And that definitely does relate to golf, no question. So the better we can get that athlete, any person in balance before they pick up a golf club, which we're able to do now, they're gonna perform better. They're going to feel better. We get a lot of reports of absence of back pain that they've had in the past. That is created exactly by what you just described, trying to swing in a way that doesn't fit the body, that doesn't fit the strength.
And that's one thing I love about Right Balance, Doc, is we're really trying to help people find their natural swing. I love that we don't teach positions. It's about flow and swing. and that we're really, there's different styles of swings, but yet there's certain things we can say that fit the characteristics of an upper, a mid, or a low core player. Well, Doc, we have some screens as far as how do we determine, other than looking at video and guessing, how do we determine if someone's upper, mid, or low core? And you've come up with a thing you call power spots. It's basically the middle finger, your California finger, and that first pad is the power spot for upper. The knuckle is mid core, and then the second pad below that knuckle is low core. And a test that we're doing a lot now is we have someone grip a club, and if they have in their middle finger that pad in their middle finger and grip it, we test strength. We get them to go to where they're kind of coming down from the top, their lead arm is parallel to the ground, and we say, we feel the strength. And not only am I doing it holding them, but they're feeling it too. Then we put the club in the knuckles, mid-core, and test. And then I find very few are low core, but we go to that last pad and check that. And that test, I think, is probably the best test you've come up with, but that's one that we can do. And now we know how to coach that student. And we know how to, with your exercise program and stuff, how to actually get them in balance to swing like an upper, mid, or low core player.
Right. Yeah, the thing you'll see in the average person is that trail hip is higher at address and shoulder down. And it's tough to make a rotation when all of that is present, even after we've identified the core zone. But as you said, in fact, I marked my hand today. I don't know if you can see that now. But that is when you grip the club.
So you have a red stripe on the first pad, which is upper core, and then
Yeah.
a black stripe in the knuckle, that's mid, and then on the second pad down, you have a blue stripe, which is for low core.
Right, and all they do is swing to the top, you step under, be careful. I've done this so many times. If you say take it to the top, they may bring it down unless you say, okay, take it to the top and stop, make sure they stop. Step under with your palm and just apply resistance. If that is their dominant zone, this red, black, or blue, they'll be able to push you down at some
Right.
level. Otherwise, you push them right off balance. They cannot stand. Again, we're looking at balance. So their power is going to reside where their balance is.
I had a student a couple days ago that they were upper core and their trail hand, they had it in the knuckle. And they put the club in that first pad, the upper core power spot, and without even just moving the club a little bit, they go, "Oh, I feel stronger already." They felt like they could create more speed already. So it's pretty interesting when you get people set up correctly and get the grip correct, and then have these other things that match up. I mean, this player was upper core, but yet he was making a low core pivot. He was pivoting all the way to his trail foot. He's moving off the ball about a foot. So,
And
the pivot is so key, Doc, and just understanding that upper core pivots around the front post and the low core pivots around the rear post.
And in order to do that, stance width is critical. Your upper core player plays between 8 and 16 inches. Your mid-core player plays between 16 and 24 inches, and your low core between 20 and 28 inches. Now, why? Because their ability the lower core player is going to start back with the shoulders. The upper core player starts back with the hips. And the mid-core player starts back with everything together. Bobby Jones' coach was Stuart Maiden. Stuart Maiden, that's what he taught. Everything goes back together. And if you look at the lead knee at the top of the backswing, that lead knee in your upper core player, if they start with the hips, goes behind the ball. In the mid-core player, if everything goes back together, that lead knee points at the ball. And the lower core player, if the shoulders start back first, lead knee goes straight out. from in front of the ball. That's an easy way to tell especially in a tour player. What are we looking at here? Are we looking
Right.
at upper, lower, or mid?
Yeah, so really great, Doc. I think you have transformed to me how I teach golf, and every PGA pro that I've had come see me and I show them this, they're like, why isn't everybody teaching like this? I mean, we can screen people, and in one lesson, we can tell them if they're upper mid or low core. We can tell them this is how you need to set up. We can tell them these are the characteristics of your swing. It's not complicated stuff. And we get some pretty quick results. I mean, people actually, it isn't like, hey, I got to go work on this for a month, but we see some pretty quick results with people. I do a lot of full day golf schools, and I'll see a lot of times, especially by the back nine, they're getting it and they're starting to hit the ball. Okay, I understand. I've digested all this information you've given me, and now I'm starting to understand the simple things that I need to do. So, Doc, where can someone go if they're interested in becoming a part of your team? If someone wanted to become a Right Balance fitter?
If you go to wrightbalance.com, uh, there are two things they would need. That website, education, is things have evolved so quickly, they'll just go to contact us and they can send me an email and I'll get them started. If they want to see a professional, we have find a professional on that site in the navigation. We are about to set up drop-down menu also for fitness and mental. So there's a lot of content there that they'll have access to.
So, Doc, what you're doing now, you have a little bit different business plan than you've had in the past, but now a lot of this is online learning. So, if
It
someone
is.
does want to get involved, you have ebooks, and you can walk them through the different steps to get. I mean, you're always one step ahead of us. You're always finding something out new and telling us something. And so it's really great what you're doing. You're creating a legacy for yourself with all the research and science that you've done. And I got to say, the golf world's a better place because you've been in it and you are helping people play better golf, understand their swing better, understand their misses, and they're having a lot more fun on the golf course.
Well, thank you, Larry. Appreciate your comments.
Well, Doc, it's been great having you on the show. And so it's just such a pleasure to have you on. We've talked about a lot of things tonight, and we've talked about, what is right balance. We've talked about all these different things. We've talked about your team you put together with Dr. James Smith, your brother-in-law, and we didn't get into the carrying angle, but that's here. This is something we measure. This determines your grip, your knee flex, so many things. Some upper core players have their trail hand on top, but if you want more information on Doc Wright, wrightbalance.com, and you can find me at larryrinker.com. Well, thanks for listening tonight to the Larry Rinker Golf Podcast. Till next time, keep swinging.